Good afternoon, folks. This is your host, James, aka Jim Lettuce. This is the official Temporary Space podcast. On this show, we only care about two things: technology and entertainment, and how these two industries affect each other. You can download the latest episode of the podcast on our SoundCloud or check out the archive on Mixcloud and our official network channel on YouTube. Just go to temporaryspace.net. Now, as usual, I will go over a list of topics based on information I find on the internet, and I will touch on the industry trends that I see, and I will make predictions based on those trends. Then, after a short break, we'll have our guest. Today's guest is Gretchen Young. Stay tuned. Alright, let's get started. Now, first things first, I touched on a trend last 2 weeks ago, last episode anyways, and I need to mention that I was wrong. I was totally wrong. I was talking about modular phones, how they're the future, and I still think they are, but the LG G5, they sucked. It failed. It didn't really fail, but it failed enough for me to mention that this trend isn't really going as the way I said it was. I was thinking, it's going to be all a big deal, but the Google modular phone, it's still not out yet. The link in my description is a video where this guy talks about it. But they tried to implement a multi-camera thing, like on the front. The front-facing camera is normal for your selfie or whatever. But the back camera, there was two cameras. There's one that was it's like a wide angle, and then the other one is a more narrow angle, and then it uses software to stitch it together. And honestly, it just seems like a lot of trouble. It seems like it's not really going to work that well. It's unnecessary. There's only one other phone that did that. I can't even think of the name, but they basically had like 5 or 6 cameras on the front, and it was a gimmick, and nobody used it. And as much as I hate to use Apple as an example, but Apple, they're not putting 2 cameras on their phones like that. They're putting one on the front, one on the back. That's it. And I let it be known I'm not a big fan of Apple, but a lot of times they do set the tone for trends, and I think the new iPhone 7 did not have it, and if the iPhone 7 had put that on there, I think it might have been a trend that would have caught on. But like I said, Google is slacking off, the LG failed, and now Apple's like, fuck it, we're going to do what we always did, and it's fucking working. Alright, next trend. It's not really a trend. The other thing I want to talk about is, now this isn't a news show. I don't want it to be a news show. There's plenty of news shows you can get on YouTube. But I feel like it's important for me to mention Crunchyroll is starting a new streaming service called VRV. Kind of like VR, but with another V on it. And it's kind of it's geared towards nerds, quote unquote. So they're going to have names like Rooster Teeth are involved. They're the people that do, I think they started Red vs. Blue, that Halo online web series thing. Oh, here we go. Rooster Teeth, CISO, Nerdist. I've heard of Nerdist. Sundry Alpha? What is this shit? Alright, well, that's some weird stuff I haven't heard of. But basically, Crunchyroll is starting a new streaming arm of their streaming empire. Crunchyroll is doing it right. They're basically Netflix for anime. So if you're into anime, check it out, I guess. I like the idea of Crunchyroll, but I don't want to pay. And I think it's like a model where you either have ads or you pay. Honestly, it's still pretty easy to steal anime, so I'm going to do it. But I'll watch anime that's on Netflix, so maybe that's brand loyalty. I don't know. But it's very important to mention that Crunchyroll is starting a new streaming thing. They invested $20 million. Wow. That's a lot. Anyways, we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to work. I don't know if they really need like a whole separate thing just for nerd culture. I feel like it's all one pot, so why not just have like an extra channel on your website? But whatever. I'm just some guy. So, alright, that's all for that trend. Let's move on to a new one. The next trend on my list is binge watching is the new goal. Now, binge watching is not a new thing. It's been a thing for a while, for like 5 years now, ever since Netflix, House of Cards and all that shit. But I think binge watching is the new quote-unquote official goal for Netflix and other streaming services. Now, you'd say, hey, isn't binge watching always the goal? I don't know if it was. I think for a while, the goal was just to get people to, sign up as a subscriber and pay your $10 a month. Like, just get on it. They would have all these kinds of acquisitions of third-party movies. Right now, I'm kind of talking about Netflix mostly, but that was what they were trying to do. But now I think they're understanding that binge watching isn't just this phenomenon that happens with things like House of Cards. It's a thing that you really want. Binge watching, it's like when they have a movie and it's a family movie where you get like the whole family instead of just one or two people, like with a rom-com. 4 tickets is more money than 2 tickets. But also, I think binge watching, it only works for certain types of shows, these newer shows where, like House of Cards, it's like a movie that kind of just keeps going. It's a movie that you watch it an hour at a time, then you wait, a year and you watch another hour. Or what they usually release it seasons, so 12 hours. But the point is, it's not a movie where it's 2 hours and done, but it's not an old show like a serial. Recently on my other podcast, we started talking about Star Trek, so I got into watching the old Star Trek because I had never actually watched it before. But it's good, but you can't really binge watch it because they're serials. It's like each episode is not necessarily connected to the first one. Same world, same people, but sometimes the episodes carry over, but most of the time it's a brand new adventure. And that doesn't work for binge watching because you start to really see the matrix and you really start to see the seams and the patterns. And now this happens with shows like House of Cards, but it's just easier with those. You don't notice it as much because it's almost meant to be binge watched. So I think that's all I got for binge watching. Furthermore, in this article it says the types of shows that people binge watch the most, surprise, is thrillers, horror, and sci-fi. Now I just mentioned sci-fi. I think that's a given for sci-fi. Horror, that sounds about right. This is usually like I can't think of the name now, American Horror Story. Thrillers, I guess, but I mean, is that like Friday the 13th? Is that a thriller, or does that categorize more as a horror? I don't know. But alright, that's it for that trend. Alright, now, I forgot to mention this earlier, but this episode is basically the E3 episode. It's mostly E3. These topics I just covered, that's it. The rest of the episode is going to be about E3. Now, this podcast is about technology and entertainment. In my opinion, video games are the epitome of that. The video game industry, like just video games, that is what this podcast should really be about. It's video games. Now, it's not always going to be video games, but E3 just happened, and that's the most prominent technology, entertainment thing event that's going on right now. I mean, sure, Apple had their whatever press thing, but who cares about Apple? I can tell you what happened right now. I didn't even have to watch it. Let me guess. There's a new OS coming out, and there's a new iPhone, and that's about it. Cool. All right. Done. So, video games, right? Now, let's talk about the first trend. Let's see if I can do this all in one take. Xbox. I think I might go through each one. I'm just gonna wing it. Okay, Xbox. Let's talk about Xbox. Xbox, they fucked up. Now, Xbox is Microsoft, so I'll refer to it as Microsoft from now on. Microsoft royally fucked up the last E3. They fucked up so bad. Or maybe it was a few E3s. Whenever, I think of E3 as the last time they brought out a console. Like, this generation of Xbox One and the Xbone, they fucked up so bad. They were like, look, it's a home media center, blah, 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 which they were, in fact, right about. It just, the way they did it was wrong, because now they're totally doing it. But they won so hard this time, mostly because they didn't fuck up. Because they fucked up so bad the last few years, all they really had to do was not shit their pants, and they would have done amazing. But that's not what they did. They fucking hit it out of the park. First of all, they introduced the Xbox One S, which was like, holy shit. The Xbox One, the Xbone, that's not the best name. I mean, they had to restart the number. They had to start at 1. They couldn't have Xbox 3 when there's a PlayStation 4, but that's how they did it. And calling it the Xbox One S is so perfect. I mean, it makes you think of the iPhone S, that makes you think of Apple, the sleek, the blah blah blah. Even though this is Microsoft, they're sworn enemies. It's crazy how they did it so well. They were like, "Welcome, this is Xbox One S." Oh, and it's like 40% smaller. Oh, and they finally put the power brick inside. If you don't know what a power brick is, it's literally a brick. It's the size of a brick, and it's attached to the wire. Laptops have them, but they're not that big. They finally figured out how to put it inside the machine, and the machine itself is smaller. Apparently, it's about the size of a PlayStation 4. That's cool. Honestly, the fact that there's a power brick in it, that's winning enough. So, first off, they hit it out of the park just by doing that. If they didn't even mention the Scorpio, they would have fucking brought the house down anyways. But I think it was still pretty good that they at least mentioned the Scorpio, like, hey, by the way, blah. But yeah, that's the Xbox S. And then, like, the way they presented the Scorpio was even better. It wasn't like the PlayStation where there's all these rumors and they haven't confirmed it. They just came out like, yeah, we're making it, and it's going to be the greatest shit you've ever seen. Deal with it. That's it. And they had this stylized, computer animated thing of this, like, motherboard GPU thing floating in the air, and it must be the whatever new motherboard processor bullshit they have for it. But it was just so, God, they did it so fucking well. And, they didn't have any problems. Nothing lagged. The screen didn't freeze or anything. They were just like, boom, there it is. Here's the Slim. That's basically what the S is. It's the Slim. But also, this is also winning because PlayStation isn't making a Slim. They're going right to the Neo. So it's just crazy. Xbox did so well. Like, PlayStation, Sony should be worried. They better have their shit together with VR and the Neo. Because if they don't, everyone's going to get Xbox. Because the other reason Xbox or Microsoft didn't do so well the last few years is because they have like 0 exclusives. Now, kids, if you're trying to make a game console, exclusives are where it's at. That is how you sell consoles. Exclusives. Alright? And up until now, there were no exclusives on Xbox. There are no good ones anyways, but now they finally have Halo, which, that's debatable whether that's a hit or not. But they've got Gears of War coming, and there's a few other titles I can't think of. But I guess the trend, what I'm trying to say is that E3, like, Microsoft did so fucking well. I'm just blown away by how well their presentation was. Also, they got rid of the Kinect thing. There's no plug for it. You can get an adapter, but who the fuck needs the Kinect? Am I right? Alright, that's all for that trend. I might mention Xbox a little more, but let's go to the next one. Alright, this next trend is wrapped up in the whole Sony presentation at E3. Here's the trend, though. I've noticed that platformers are making a comeback. Now, this is very interesting. As a millennial, I grew up in the 90s with games like Crash Bandicoot, and games like Skull Monkeys and shit. And those, Mario, obviously, that's a platformer. Platformers where you jump on stuff, jump puzzles and whatnot. And they're making a comeback. They did the Ratchet and Clank reboot. Now, the Ratchet and Clank reboot itself didn't really... It was kind of a sequel / reboot, which is basically what everything is, unless it's a quote-unquote remaster. But I think it influenced the Crash. I mean, people were trying to get the Crash to get remade. Some guy was making like a fan version of it in the Unreal Engine. But I think with Ratchet and Clank doing so well, I mean, it did well. It didn't blow everyone away, but it was good enough where people bought it and it was a financial success. So whoever's in charge is like, oh, fuck it, let's bring back Crash. Everyone wants it. We might as well. So they're bringing back like 3 Crash games. There's a remaster, one of them's a remake, and there's a reboot, and there's some other game. Maybe it's a mobile game. I don't know the exact details. I don't want to sit here and watch the whole YouTube video again. But the main trend is that platformers are coming back. I think it kind of depends on how well Crash does. If Crash doesn't do well, I mean, it's a reboot, I mean, that's why they redo stuff. It's guaranteed to do a relevant amount of success, unless you completely just shit your pants and do it totally wrong, which they still might. But I think it's very interesting. I think we're probably going to see more Prince of Persia type games. I think just more jump puzzle platformer type games are going to start coming out, especially if the Crash reboot does well. I personally am kind of excited about Crash, but as a millennial, I've learned that nostalgia is best left in the past. You try to replay it, it's not that good. A reboot is a good way to do it, but we'll see. Furthermore, I'd also want to mention, this isn't really part of the trend, but there's a new Spider-Man game coming out, and Sony, if they're smart, they'll utilize this. Obviously, they're going to. It's one of the biggest properties they have, but they still own the property to make Spider-Man. Marvel does not own it. The way they have Spider-Man in the new Avengers whatever movie is because they made a deal, and everyone's making shitloads of money, but for a while, because Marvel was they almost went bankrupt or something like 10 years ago or 15. So they actually sold off all their rights to stuff, specifically X-Men and Spider-Man. And that's why those are made. I think X-Men is Fox and Spider-Man is Sony. But anyways, I think the new Spider-Man game will be cool. Like other things, if it doesn't fuck up, they're going to model it more like the licensed Spider-Man games that were made after the Tobey Maguire ones. Now, kids, the newest Spider-Man is a reboot. Before that, about 10, 15 years ago, they did... Wow, that's a long time ago. But they had a guy named Tobey Maguire who was Spider-Man. And they made See, what they do is they'll make games, right? But then they make a big movie. And so then they'll have like a movie, quote, movie licensed version of it. And the first one they did, it was just called Spider-Man. Based off the movie, the Tobey Maguire one. That one was the shit, and a lot of people hated it because you shot webs into the air. They didn't actually attach to buildings. Then in the second one they fixed it, but the second one was not as good. The first one, all the interior levels were so cool. Anyways, that's all. I think that's all for this trend. Basically, platformers are coming back. We'll see how Crash does. Alright, next. Alright, there's another trend. This one's really, I'm interested in talking about this one. Dark Souls. Let's talk about Dark Souls. Dark Souls is a game, I'm pretty sure it's a PlayStation exclusive, but now it's on PC as well. It's definitely not on Xbox. But Dark Souls, it started out, I think it was Demon Souls, then Demon Souls 2, then it morphed into Dark Souls. Then they had this kind of spin-off called Bloodborne, and they just had Dark Souls 3. Now, the trend I want to say is, I guess, that this, like, Dark Souls is, even if it's not, it's been super successful, but they have heavily influenced this new generation and the next generation of games. It's crazy. So, I couldn't help but notice in all these highlight reels for E3, and just lately in general, everything looks like Dark Souls. Now, Dark Souls is kind of like an RPG. It's like melee combat. You fight these big... they're not necessarily always big, but you tend to fight these giant monsters, and it's a melee battle, and you gotta dodge, and you're dodging on a 3D plane. And all the new games, a lot of them look like that, especially... What was it? Final Fantasy. That's a big one. It just seems like every new game, you're fighting melee with this big... giant monster, and it's on a 3D plane. Obviously games are in 3D, but I just think it's really interesting how they all look very similar. You're fighting this big enemy and he swings and then you dodge it. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if this is good or bad. On the one hand, it's good because I like RPGs. I like the way the combat is in that game, but I don't know if it's bad because I'm starting to think all the games are going to look the same. It's kind of like how, because of Skyrim, everything kind of became open world for a while, especially games like The Witcher. Oh, furthermore, The Witcher even looks like it. The Witcher follows this trend where there's these big ogre type things attacking you, even if it's multiple enemies. I mean, I was playing Fallout 4 the other day, and I couldn't help but notice that looked like Dark Souls as well. I was fighting with a sword, fighting this big ogre behemoth. I think it's called a behemoth. It's a big fucking monster. It's like 10 feet tall, and it's attacking me. And, what does this mean? What's the company that makes it? I think they're called From Software. That's literally the name, From Software. I think it's one word. They did something right. People are caught. Like, if you make something good enough that people copy, that, in my opinion, is winning. I mean, you can look at movies like The Matrix and say, oh, that's a bullshit movie. They've made other movies like that, blah, blah, blah. But do you know how many fucking movies spoofed The Matrix? I mean, people still do that whole, where he leans back and you dodge the bullets. People still do that in movies now. It's crazy. You can talk shit till the end of days, but that movie was so successful that people are copying it. So maybe the Dark Souls franchise, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just made something so good, so well, that really taps into gamers and whatnot, that everyone's doing it. So I think it's good because I like that type of game, but for the industry as a whole, I think it's not that good. It's probably bad. It's just, I mean, if I had done this podcast a while ago, I would have said the same thing. That this open world trend is kind of lame. All the games are kind of looking the same. And, it's an ebb and flow. It's a back and forth with trends like this. It basically means we'll have a lot of games that do that for a while, but then there will be a reaction to it, and you'll have a game that's completely different and out there and opposite of that on purpose, and it will do really well. And then the whole cycle starts over, and you'll get games that are imitating that new variation, which is an antithesis to the original thesis. So we'll see what happens. I think it's interesting. I still don't really play Dark Souls. It's too hard for me. I prefer the dumbed down, easy version of it, which is Skyrim, basically. So we'll see where that goes. Let's talk about the next trend. Alright, now I cannot mention E3 without mentioning Nintendo. Nintendo has been dropping the ball for the entire generation, but I think right now Nintendo is kind of like that little brother or the little cousin who's really smart and talented, and he's going to come up with some crazy awesome shit, but he can't get his shit together. He keeps fucking up. And let's talk for a second about the Nintendo Wii U. Now, first off, the Nintendo Wii, everyone thinks of the Wii probably, you think of Super Nintendo or the 64, that's what I grew up with. I never did play Nintendo though. We had Super Nintendo, but I never had a Nintendo. But so they were always winning, right? But then PlayStation was always big, and then Xbox showed up, and Nintendo kind of fell off for a minute. But then they changed the game. They changed everything by blowing everyone out of the water with the Nintendo Wii. Now, if you don't know what the Wii is, it's actually kind of old. It was their last system before the Wii U, and it was such a financial success. This was when what was this, last generation? It's not this one, it's the one before. So that means it was PlayStation 3 and Xbox, what was it, 2? I guess they called it the 360, so the Xbox 360. This was a crazy time because that last generation, I don't know what the year was, but this was when quote unquote gaming became quote mainstream. Games were always a thing, but they were kind of this this marginal market, this side market. But then when that generation came out, it became a big deal. It became mainstream. Things like E3 and Comic-Con. I think part of it has to do with the fact that there were comic book movies coming out and shit like that. They were becoming big. This was before the Avengers and all that stuff, but Spider-Man was going strong, and X-Men was going strong. So it kind of makes sense, but it's a very tumultuous and crazy time when, PlayStation, which was always okay, they were fucking up so bad. The PlayStation 3, it was way overpriced. The shit was like $700 when it came out. Like most consoles, there were no exclusives, no good ones anyways, just those shitty exclusives that are basically like a demo game, and it's not good enough to buy, so they sell it in a bundle because no one's going to buy it on their own. But that's what the last generation was. It was PlayStation royally fucking up, and then the 360 had their own problems. They were, it was their, their sophomore entry, like when you're a musical artist and you have your second album, that one, it's harder for that one to do well because there's this expectation after the first one. Unless your first one totally sucks, in which case, it's kind of like Microsoft this year. All they had to do was not shit their pants. But basically, Microsoft in this generation, or the last generation with the 360, they had the red ring of death. That was a big shot in their gut. They really fucked up. I think the reason it happened is because PlayStation 3 was such a gorilla in the room that they were like, fuck, quick, get it out, push it out. And they pushed it out without properly testing it and whatever. And they had a red ring of death. Now, it wasn't all the consoles, obviously. It was a certain percentage, but it was mine. It was mine. One of mine did it. I was so mad. I was playing BioShock. If you ever heard of BioShock, it's probably one of the best games in the last 10 years. I'm not talking about that new BioShock. Not BioShock 2, nobody cared about that. Or the new BioShock. I didn't even like it that much. But the first one, that shit was the shit. And I was playing it, and I was on the final boss. Literally fighting in the midst of battle with the big final boss. And, like most games, you gotta hit them a certain amount of times and they're dead. And then it's like, oh man, two more hits. I was on like the last hit. Swear to God. One more hit, I would have beat the entire fucking game, and I got a red ring of death. And God, that made me. I was originally a PlayStation, Sony fanboy, still am now, but I went away from them and went to Microsoft, went to Xbox, because Xbox One, or the original Xbox, was so good, Halo and all that. And then this red ring of death. It burned me. It scarred me. I was so upset. It made me go back to PlayStation, because what happened was, of course, it's their problem. The Microsoft said, we fucked up. Here, send it to us. We'll fix it for free. But when I sent it, it took them forever to fix it, and I had to argue with the Indian guy on the other side of the phone, who made me do a bunch of bullshit ass troubleshooting. You have to do that, but come on, man. You pay $400 for a machine. It should fucking work, and I shouldn't have to go through any trouble to fix it. I shouldn't have to talk to someone and have to send it. God, it was like I had to go through all the troubleshooting. Then they sent me this cardboard coffin, which I thought it looked like. It looked like a coffin for my Xbox 360. Then I had to package it up. I had to pay for shipping and handling, which is also bullshit. And then it took forever. Now, this is right when Halo 3, I guess. It was one of the new Halos came out right after I had sent my Xbox away, so I couldn't play it. I was probably the biggest Halo fan you've ever met. I was known for liking it and being really good at it. And so when it came out, I was sitting at home with my thumb up my ass with no Xbox 360, and everyone was calling me on the phone, hitting me up on Facebook and MySpace. See, back then, MySpace was the thing. People were saying, hey, did you play the new Halo? And I was like, fuck you, no. Fucking bullshit. It's like lost in the mail. Like it took way long to fix it. Everyone else I ever talked to, when they got their Xbox fixed from the red ring of death, they got their shit in like 2 weeks. I didn't even get any kind of answer back. I was emailing them and, trying to customer service, blah, blah, blah. It took them like, I can't remember now. I always embellish it, but it was a good 3 months. It was not a week or two. It was not a month. It was not 2. It was 3 months. And God, I was just so mad that everyone else, they got theirs really fast. And then after waiting that long, I also had to track it down. They kept. I wasn't home one time when they delivered it, so then I had to track it down and drive 30 minutes to the hub where it was just sitting there, and they had forgotten about it. God, man, I was so mad. So that whole thing made me hate Microsoft, right? But I'm trying to paint a picture for you is that PlayStation was fucking up, Xbox was really fucking up, and Nintendo, they took a completely different approach. Because like I said, the gaming had become mainstream. Everyone was like, whoa, amazing graphics, blah. And this was a big generation leap from the last generation, and this generation of gaming isn't that impressive. But that generation, before that, games were not that good looking. It was a huge jump. So that's where PlayStation and Xbox were doing. They were going for the yo, it's amazing, bro, that kind of thing. And Nintendo, they were relying on their fun, easy to pick up reputation of on the Game Boy and all that handheld. That's a whole nother story. but they were relying on that. And what they did was they went, all right, we're going to go mainstream. We're going to go all the way mainstream. And they went for the casual gamer. They tried to get everyone in the family to play the game, and it worked like a fucking charm. The Wii outsold the PlayStation and the Xbox for like 3 years. And like, I'm pretty sure the Xbox and the PlayStation, they didn't even make that much money. They never made a profit or anything. I mean, they made profit, but they didn't make their money back for like a few years. But the Wii was just, you couldn't even get one. I remember I had to like call the GameStops every day when they open, and it took me like a week or 2 or 3 to actually find one that they had, and it was available for purchase, and it wasn't some bullshit like display one. And so the reason I'm saying all this is I want you to understand how crazy good the Wii U was, how amazing they had done. And the generation after that, which is last generation, or I guess it's this generation, I don't know, the Wii, like Nintendo, they're not releasing their console at the same time as the PlayStation and Xbox, which is kind of smart. They've realized that they can't necessarily compete. I mean, they can compete, obviously, it's Nintendo, but it's easier for them to go through a side door than it is to fucking go through the front door and fight all the troops. And so they fucked up by what they did was they had the Wii U. And the Wii U was, God, it wasn't as big of a blunder as say, maybe the 360 was, but maybe it was. I don't know. It was probably a bigger blunder. They fucked up. You're probably thinking, the Wii U, what is that? Exactly. It came out after the Wii, but they didn't even promote it. Nobody even fucking knew it was out. I remember reading some random magazine. Who the fuck reads magazines anymore? I read it in a magazine. The new Nintendo console, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Nintendo has a new console? Why didn't they announce this or whatever? And so one of the reasons it failed is because they didn't promote it. They were just like, oh, by the way, new console. And they didn't tell anyone. And it had the same fucking name as the Wii. They called it the Wii U. And of course, now that we're having the PlayStation Neo and the Xbox Scorpio, clearly Nintendo had it right. Instead of trying to come up with a whole new bullshit, they'll just add a little extra suffix at the end. But it was ahead of its time. It failed. People were like, what the fuck? Is it a Wii? Why is it called the Wii U? Is it some kind of bullshit Wii, like a newer version? And then they had that weird iPad controller thing. And now I think using a tablet as a controller is not necessarily a bad idea. But the way it looked like some shitty like kid's toy version of an iPad. Like it looked like some kind of shit that you would get from like a McDonald's Happy Meal. And those two things, I think they fucked it up. And they didn't have any exclusives. That, like I said, consoles need exclusives. Super Smash Brothers is one of their biggest ones. It hadn't come out yet. It came out like a year or two ago. It was okay. Apparently, Smash Brothers Melee is the best. I guess that was my favorite one too. I tried to play the new one. It was just so crazy. There was too many people on screen. I felt like it just wasn't fun anymore. It didn't feel like Smash. But anyways, the Wii U fucked up. And another game that the people have been waiting for like 10 years now was the new Zelda. And that's what I'm talking about. This is the E3 episode. They finally showed more gameplay of their new Zelda. Up until now, we've had whispers, teaser trailers, tiny clips, but there was no gameplay. There was no let's play with a developer saying, here it is. We finally got that. And it was okay. Honestly, it looks a little dated. It looks like a GameCube game, if you ask me. But it's interesting. This is what happened with the last Zelda. What was it called? Twilight Princess? It took so long that by the time, they developed it for the GameCube, but it took so long to come out that the Wii was out by then. So they just released it on GameCube and Wii, and it ran really good on the Wii because it was a GameCube game. I think that's what happened this time. They were developing it for the Wii U, and they're finally about to finish, and there's going to be the NX? That's where it's going to be. And so it's going to come out on the Wii U and the NX. And I just want to comment on how out of date it looked. It was all cel shaded like Wind Waker. And, cell shading's cool as a stylistic choice, but a lot of times people do cell shading because it's a cheap way to do it. Borderlands does the same thing. If you can cell shade it, you don't have to come up with a bunch of crazy textures. You just, there's shaders and textures on it, but it's not like you're doing Crysis or something, or The Witcher, you know what I mean? So, the question in this trend is, did Nintendo fail? I don't know. I think they kind of did, because they didn't show off the NX, and they showed off, what is it called? Let me see if I can find the name of it. It's called, Breath of the Wild. That's a good name. It makes me want to play it. It's open world. But really, that's all I have to mention for Nintendo is Zelda. That's it. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think they did fail. They failed because they didn't even talk about the NX. They could have at least done what Sony did, where Sony was like, look, we're going to have the Neo, but it's not going to be at E3. Sorry. That's better than just not saying anything about it. Fuck. So I think Nintendo failed. I think Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, if it's good enough, people will like it. But what else is there for Nintendo right now? Can you name? I don't know if I can name anything. Mario Maker, and whatever the new Smash is. Is that it? Is that it? That's all. Shit, Nintendo, y'all better step it up. The NX, come on. Everyone knows the NX is going to be crap. And this new Zelda, I guess what I'm trying to say is that Nintendo failed. And they failed so much the last generation, all they had to do was not shit their pants, but apparently, I guess they kind of shit their pants. Huh. Alright, well that's all for Nintendo. I think that's all for E3. There's one more. I'm gonna talk about whether E3 is relevant. That's the final question. But before that, I want to talk about the next trend, which is photorealistic CG movies. This is a trend. I'm calling it now. This isn't a new thing. They've been doing this for years and years. They had like that weird Polar Express. You think of Shrek. But I'm talking about photorealistic. I'm not talking about that weird, uncanny valley. I'm talking about photorealistic, and not necessarily with humans. The two main movies I'm talking about here are the Warcraft movie and the Final Fantasy movie. Now, this is kind of a dividing topic. There's a lot of people that they hate CG with a passion. They say, "Oh, it's not like old practical effects. It's not as good." Blah blah blah. They're talking about that bullshit on the Sci-Fi Channel. Nowadays, CG movies are the shit. I've always felt this way. I've always loved it. I like when what's that zoo one? The one that's got Madagascar. I even that was stylized, but it was still good. I just really like when they have The Adventures of Tintin. That was a good one. That one was so good. It looked like they had filmed on real locations, and the only thing CG was the dog and the boy. But they're getting fucking good at this shit. Even maybe about 10 years ago, the other Final Fantasy movie, not The Spirits Within, but the other one, it was called Advent Children. It was so good. The materials in there, they're getting good at skin and hair. I'll talk about that in a second. But they are so good at materials with CG now. Any material, wood, plastic, especially metal, they can do it so well. Oh, and grass. They do it so well, and the sky, that you can't tell if it's real anymore. As a millennial, I watch it and go, okay, I know that wood is fake. I know that sky is fake. I know that grass is not real. But honestly, I cannot tell the difference anymore. Especially materials like leather. Oh man, it's so good. And this is on a movie 10 years ago. The newest Final Fantasy movie coming out, it looks so fucking crazy. I love all CG movies. And it looks, I think, between this and the Warcraft movie, people are going to start doing this more and more. It's not this side market. It's not this specialized thing like Final Fantasy. Warcraft was a big movie. I think it was financially successful. I'm pretty sure the critics did not like it. But the game, the gamers loved it, and I wasn't really into Warcraft. Warcraft is originally I think it's like a real-time strategy. I am not good at strategy. I'm a tactical player. So that means planning ahead. I can't do it. So I was never really into that. In college, I played the beta testing for World of Warcraft. Now that shit's old too. That's about 10 years old. I played that for a minute, but then I was like, it's not as good as Oblivion or Skyrim or Morrowind. It was Morrowind back then. So I couldn't get into it, but you know, people loved it. The gamers really loved it. So I guess as someone who sort of played it, I can see that. I'm going into it as someone who just loves CG. Like that's why I'm waiting for it to come out. I don't really go to the theater anymore, but that's the trend. Is I think there's going to be a lot more photorealistic CG movies, and they're going to get so crazy good that people just can't tell the difference. I mean, really, the hardest part is hair, skin, and lips. And if you see the new Warcraft movie, the hair, shit, like they invented, who did it? ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. They did Star Wars and stuff like that, among others. But Star Wars is when they started. There's some behind the scenes on YouTube where they talk about how they made an entirely new software just to do the hair. Now they also did this with Weta. They did Lord of the Rings. There was a bit, this is kind of a marketing thing where they say, "Oh, we created new software." There's some truth to it, but it's really a marketing thing. They probably would have made it anyways, but they made it for this movie just because this is the one they need it for, and so it's very interesting. So the hair, they're good on hair. I think maybe another couple movies they'll be good. Skin and lips are the last thing. Now the Final Fantasy movie, the new one coming out, that'll be the deciding factor. We will see. I'll probably talk about it on whatever episode I have when that shit is out. But also I want to mention how the Final Fantasy, this is a video game episode anyways. They're promoting this Final Fantasy so well. They got the reboot, remaster thing. That's kind of a reboot, but it's kind of a new reimagining. That's on its own thing. Then they have the new Final Fantasy, which is, I think they're on 15, which actually looks cool. It's more Kingdom Hearts style. It's more hack and slash. It's not turn-based. I'm not really good at turn-based. As I said earlier, strategy is not my strong suit. But they have a cross-promotion with the movie and the game. And this isn't a new thing, but it's nice when games do it right. Ratchet and Clank tried it. Didn't really work because the movie was so bad. But I think this Final Fantasy movie will be so enjoyable that it will promote the game and it won't hurt their campaign. Alright, I think that's it for the photorealistic trend. Getting towards the end. Gonna have our guest on soon. But let's talk about E3 as a whole. This is the E3 episode. So my final trend is a question. Is E3 relevant? I don't know. I think based on everything I've said, I'm doing a whole podcast about E3, and they're still making significant video game announcements at E3. So maybe the answer is yes. I mean, E3's validity has been called into question for the last few years because it's become increasingly irrelevant. Big companies like Bethesda and EA, they have their own press events. However, on the other hand, big announcements are still being made. I mean, I'm sitting here saying how Bethesda has their own press conference, but Bethesda still had a press conference at E3. EA still had a conference. Sony still had a conference. I say E3 is still relevant. They're still announcing new shit. I mean, they announced what? New Dishonored? I don't really know. Dishonored seems like I would really like it. I'm into stealth. But I want new technology. I don't like games that are set in the past. Like I like Grand Theft Auto because there's cars and there's machine guns and all that crazy shit. I like Fallout because there's actual guns and stuff. There's technology and electricity. It makes you wonder, why do I like Skyrim? I think just, wizards and shit. That's why. But I digress. E3, I think it is relevant. I think people still go. But also, though, it's like E3 doesn't know what E3 is. It used to be this closed, walled off industry event where, like, kids, before YouTube and Facebook and all this shit, E3 was the only place to get video game information. That was the only place there were announcements. Besides that, and Game Informer magazine, which, who reads magazines anymore? But yeah, back in the day, Game Informer and E3, that was the only way. When we wanted cheat codes, we couldn't really look it up on the internet. I mean, you could, but it wasn't the way it is now, like where you just Google it and you get on, Reddit, and it's like, oh, here's like 5 links to whatever I want. Here's a wiki, like a Wikipedia. If you don't know what that is, it's like Wikipedia, but for other shit. Like, people make wikis for games. Like, that's a thing. Back in the day, it was either Game Informer, E3, or you had to go to like Cheat Code Central, and we couldn't really print it. We could print it, but it would use up so much ink, so we would just get a pencil and write down all the codes. And that's how people did it back then. And, I think E3 is slightly less relevant than it was, but it's still relevant. They're still making legitimate industry announcements at E3. So, yes, the answer is yes, E3 is relevant. Well, I think I covered most of the trends. Stay tuned. We're going to have a short musical interlude. Then we're going to have our first guest, Gretchen Young. She's an actress/model who's an actor in one of my web series. That's how I know her. And we're trying to promote it. So it's part of the reason she's a guest on here. Also, she's a working, kind of person in Dallas. That's also what I'm trying to promote with this podcast. So please check it out. And we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, folks. If you're just tuning in, this is the Temporary Space Network official podcast, and now it's time for the guest. Today's guest is Gretchen Young. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm okay. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, too. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So, we actually met through Craigslist. I was thinking about that. Right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I was trying to remember where, I had done an audition for my web series, Impractical Mind. It wasn't even called that back then.
No, it was called Running Wild, and then
they made a show called that, and they have more lawyers than us, so...
That ended that.
Yeah, that ended. But anyways, you responded to a Craigslist audition thing.
Yeah, man, and I didn't have an agent then, so... Honestly,
that's where I get, 99% of all my auditions and stuff, is Craigslist and stuff like that.
I've definitely done some of those, for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was the first time I let people send in video entries, over YouTube. I think that's what we did. You made a YouTube unlisted.
Yeah, that's right. I did.
Yeah, and I'd never done that for an audition before, but I think I'm going to do that for every audition after this.
You should. Oh my gosh, the power of email video is where it's at.
Yeah. Well, it was on YouTube, wasn't it? You emailed me a link. I think that's how I did it.
Oh, yeah, I did do that. But just video in general is a huge way of communicating right now.
Mm-hmm. All that Skype and whatnot.
A lot of times, if you can just see, if they could see in your first message, the whole reason they have to see you a lot of the time is just see what you're like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you can express it in a video, I bet I would be surprised if that would be all that some people needed to see. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Saving everyone involved time.
So what happened was I casted you as the second lead in the series. Basically it's like, I don't even know how to pitch it at this point. I should. There's 2 episodes already done. You can go to our studios channel to check that out. It's the blue one. But you were cast as the second lead. You were going to play Friend Girl, or you still do. There's a 3rd episode coming.
Yes, I feel like I'm always going to be a little bit of a friend girl. You know, I'm always friend girl.
Well, actually, originally, the friend girl character was supposed to be this superhero.
That makes sense.
Right? And it was supposed to be oh, there goes friend girl. And there was going to be a theme song, and you were going to have a video intro every time you showed up.
That sounds like actually something I've always wanted to have in my real life, so
that would have been so funny. But, we didn't have enough money. And,
eventually.
And it kind of morphed into this, dark film noir thing, actually.
I think so too, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because, like, see, the first episode, you're in it, but you're, like, in the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
We shot a party scene.
That's sweet, Jane Fonda, if you end up watching it.
Oh, yeah, it was a Jane Fonda. But anyways, so what happened was you were just the actress, but right after that, the whole, like, my whole crew kind of disappeared overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow you had mentioned that you wanted to be a producer, right?
Yes.
You mentioned it on the way out of that shoot because I had met you like once before that day.
Uh-huh.
And so then that's when at some point I was trying to finish it and I needed more crew. So that's kind of when I asked you to help be a producer.
I do remember that. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad I asked.
So that was your first. This was your first. It wasn't your first like film project though, right?
I think it was.
Was it really?
Yeah, I mean, I had done maybe two 24-hour film races,
Okay. You hadn't acted in a short or anything like that before?
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, this was my first time to really do anything, not just acting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I haven't done much. Like, I think that they were all just student-related stuff.
Okay.
I did some commercial-type stuff, but...
Well, that's where I'm kind of leaning towards, because I want to ask you about modeling in the fashion industry, because I know you're also a model.
Yes.
You're what I like to call a model/actor.
Yeah, it's more like /model now.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean...
Not as much acting?
No, I mean, I like acting, but I think that the acting, I'm trying to come into my own with acting, I guess.
Uh-huh.
It's not, I mean, of course, it's not the easiest thing to do, but, I've been going to acting classes, and they were very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I really got to understand myself more, but... it is not as natural for me as something like improv. So like making it up on the spot or, doing a little bit of like comedy. Like that to me is so much more, I don't know if that's telling me that I only play one character or not, but I don't think that's it. I think that that's just more natural. So so commercials and stuff like that, yes, it is available to me and I want to do those things. But the type of stuff I want to do is more stuff that I would probably write.
Yeah. Okay.
So that takes a little bit of time, or I don't know.
So you you don't like memorizing lines and stuff like that?
No, I don't mind that at all. I just think it's more fun to do kind of like what we did. Like I feel like we definitely had a skeleton, we definitely had lines, but we definitely improv'd a lot.
Yeah, we didn't we sort of had a script, but we didn't memorize anything. We would kind of go through it and improv and come up with a little beat here and there, and then. Right, that's how. And then
it kind of turns into something wonderful. Like I think that had we just stuck to this script, I don't think it would have been near as funny, at least to us,
Yeah.
And isn't that the whole thing? Like, if I'm not, why would we ever do any of this if we weren't having a blast?
It was pretty fun. As the director, it's usually very stressful. But I had a lot of fun filming the scene in the car.
That's still my favorite scenes,
right?
too. That was so much fun.
You see, episode 2 is technically the quote-unquote your episode, your appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, it kind of morphed into this dark film noir, and you play I guess you're like my ex-partner. That's what I was going for, like ex-partner. Like we have a history, but it's a long time ago.
Yeah, like ex-best friend, but I made you do something. Well, I don't want to say too much.
I don't know if we were friends. We might have been friends, but I definitely wrote it like we used to work together.
Ooh. Okay, all right.
Like in the mafia or something.
Yeah, well, fitting.
Yeah. So I had the most fun when we were filming in the car. And that actually was mostly improv. Like we didn't even have much there. All I knew was that, it's a stakeout and we're supposed to be eating takeout food and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing we did was we just knew that we had to fill this much amount of time, and we had to be on a stakeout, and we had to be eating Chinese food because that's what you do on a stakeout.
Well, that's what they do in the movies, anyway. That's what I was going for. Very cinematic kind of
Which
thing.
I think is kind of funny. I feel like that's not the only time you did that in the web series.
What
make it kind of cinematic,
most
corny
of it was
that
very corny. I was kind of going for a Naked Gun, Three Stooges kind of thing. So I tried to put some of that in there. It didn't really work the way I thought. But okay, so you spoke about comedy earlier. You do and you like improv. You go to the Dallas Improv, right?
Yeah, Dallas Comedy House.
And you did like the classes and you went through?
Yes, I did all of the levels. I graduated from the improv program.
Awesome. So how many levels are there?
5 8-week courses.
Okay. And it's like once a week?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. And so you prefer improv. Would you ever want to do... See, I don't know. Improv is awesome, but the whole live part of it...
You just have to get over it. I mean, but that's part of anything, the live
Well, no,
part of anything.
not like I'm shy. I mean, like, you can't edit. You can't fix it. You can't change the audio later, you know?
Yeah, but that's pretty freeing. Yeah, it's very scary, but, like, going ahead and just... Because you will come up with something. Everyone does. No matter what, everyone's got their moment on the stage. But the key to it is listening. And in order to have that moment, like, you have to achieve all these other things, like being a good listener, being supportive, being, like, going with the flow.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you can do all 3 of those things, you're going to have a good scene, and you're going to walk off feeling good. Because you feel good doing that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just something... People always are like, I can't, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, that attitude, of course.
So would you ever do, like... There's a lot of people I've known that they do improv. They make money by, like, you get an improv group and then you do, like, a corporate events. And they'll hire them.
I would love to do a troupe. I really would. But it's hard to be in a troupe. Or it's hard to form one.
It's like forming a band or something.
Yeah, I mean, they're people you've got to play well together. You have to... I also don't go and hang out there. I go to the jams, but I go to the jams and I go home because I've got to get up early, you know, and I don't hang out up there as much as I should. And I'm also kind of, shy sometimes, but, they have this thing there called the Ewing, and you can go, and if you get in this Ewing troupe, you audition for it. And then I got the times mixed up the last one. But it happens every 2 or 3 months or something. Mm-hmm. And if you get on it, you perform every week. So that's my next...
Do they pay you?
I don't think so. But you don't do it.
But that's like the legit one that you want to get there.
I mean, it's just, for me, that is a ticket to, like, if I can... That is my ticket to getting experience as a regular performing... As part of a regular performing improv troupe.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it on point like that, like...
and who knows? Like, maybe that'll be the troupe. Where, like, regardless, I will grow from the situation. And it's an experience I'll need to get where I want to go.
So would you say one of the places you'd like to go would be, like, SNL or something like that?
Definitely.
Because that's live.
Yeah.
That's very stressful. I've done, like, seen so many behind the scenes and interviews. Like, I would hate doing that. Because they have to, like... crunch and work till 4 a.m. like all week, and then on Friday they do like a dress rehearsal with an audience and they record it in case something goes wrong in the live, then they do it live. God, that's like being in a play. Like, fuck that.
It sounds wonderful.
Well, I mean, it's pretty cool. What they do is you sign on for like 7 seasons at a time, which sounds like a lot. But,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what all the interviews of former cast members say. You sign on for a 7-season contract, and I guess that's what they do in case somebody blows up. That they can hold on to them, because it maybe just takes a while. Because you know what I mean.
That's job security too. You have to give up everything for that.
Yeah, job security. Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I think that sounds fantastic that they do that. I would love for someone like that to do that. You know what I mean?
And they still have time off to do movies, because they film like a regular TV show. So there's like an off season at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact schedule, but
me either. But yeah. So yeah, I'd definitely love to do that.
Okay, so you like comedy, but you're not originally from Dallas, are you?
No, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, when did you come to Dallas?
It'll be 3 years in July.
Okay, so you came to Dallas right before we met.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you lived in Dallas for a while for some reason.
No, I just knew this is what I wanted to do, and I was just hustling, just trying to figure it out.
Well, I mean, you got on my show, so it's clearly working out for you.
Clearly.
So I was going to ask how you got into comedy. I mean, were you always interested, or did you do plays in high school? How did you get to doing this kind of stuff?
Well, I never really thought about it, but thinking back when I was little, I noticed that every single time I got nervous, I would just start cracking jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that like this isn't too unnatural for me to do, I guess. But not this past December, but the December before, I was just failing at everything. I didn't get into the grad school that I wanted. I wasn't working as a model that much anymore. I was just working a serving job, and there was nothing wrong with that, but I just was trying to make all these things work, and I knew I was capable, but it just wasn't happening. So I basically took a really hard look at myself and said, just try to figure out what it was, and pretty much every single failure that I had that was really impactful stemmed from low self-esteem or doubting myself or something. So like I would just completely ignore my gut feeling because I was too self-conscious to do it, and I would fail. And it was just kind of, different variations of that. So I just, realized that I needed to get some confidence, and I needed to do it quickly. And what was something that always scared me? Stand-up comedy. All right, if I do 10 open mics this year, I'll be 10 times more confident. And it worked. And about number 7, I knew I was going to keep doing it.
Yeah, talk about stand-up. You do stand-up, right?
Yeah, I do. I do stand-up.
But I have yet to see you do stand-up,
It's okay. Though. It's hard because I don't really have a show. I've done 3 shows, but, right now it's just open mics. And open mics are 3 to 4 minutes on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday.
Don't you have to go, like, real early?
Yeah, it's like you basically like sign up on Facebook, and then you have to go there at like 7 or 8 and see where you are on the list, and you could be anywhere from 8 o'clock to like 1:30 in the morning. So it's hard to tell people, yeah, come see me, because it's 3 minutes anytime between that time frame.
God.
You know what I mean? On a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, But I will say, when I finally have a show at a decent hour in Dallas, I got everyone and their mom's gonna know. But open mics, it's just kind of hard. And I kind of just view them as practice anyway. I don't know if anyone would really be that impressed with my open mics.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I can't judge. I haven't seen it yet.
No, I know.
All right. So, we talked about modeling and fashion and all that. So, like, you've done print ads, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen your print ads at some point.
Yeah.
But you've done commercials, right? Like, have you done, what kind of were they? Were they like, were you holding a product or what?
Yeah, I do a lot of, I've done several, industrial type things, internal communication videos or...
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, there's that, or I worked for a suit company, and they did an instructional video on how to measure. So I had no lines, but
Oh, so you were like...
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like.
Cool.
This is where to measure, but... So yeah, I do a lot of stuff like that.
So which one do you like better? You like filmmaking type stuff or commercials? Or also like you've done fashion shows, like you walk the catwalk too, right? Mm-hmm. So out of those 3, like which one do you like better?
Probably the best one is production type, like short sketches or like web series, like something that probably something like that, followed by commercial acting, followed by the runway. I have fun doing all 3, though. I just want to put that. I love all 3.
Does it intertwine that much? I mean, like, have you ever been on... Like, some commercials are kind of like a little movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or is it mostly... Have you learned that commercials, it's like... corporate, get the shot, we're done. There's not much improv.
Oh, yeah. There's not... No, I wouldn't say that... No, I've never really had a whole... Aside from, maybe, the way my body moves while I'm doing something, there's not much improv. It's either lines or no lines. But, I mean, I guess, I'm improving with how I'm moving, so...
Uh-huh.
I know I just contradicted myself, but... I mean, I guess physically, yeah, there's some improv, but on these, more corporate type things, it's not very line improv.
So, it seems like if you're trying to do acting, commercialing, the kind of job that one would want is like the Old Spice ads, right?
Oh my gosh!
Isn't that that's the holy grail of doing ads? Because it's like he's a movie star, but he's not. He doesn't have to memorize all these crazy lines or anything.
No, national commercials where it's at. I mean, I think that would just be so much fun, because you would. I mean, eventually the improv would. You would be able to be your own with it, because you would be a character, not just for one day, but several times, you know?
Yeah.
And each time you do a character, you do it better.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you know it better.
So, I want to see, we talk about industry trends a lot on this podcast. So I feel like we should definitely touch on the modeling industry, the fashion industry. I guess modeling is in the fashion industry, right?
Yeah.
What is the future of it? I mean, has it changed much? I didn't do any research on the history of it, but where do you see it going? Is it changed any in the last few years? Is it going to change, or is it just the same?
Well, I mean, of course it's going to change. It's changing all the time, but I'm not super knowledgeable on the whole industry, but I think that
You clearly have experience, though. Like, from your experience, has it? I mean, do they do auditions more electronically now? Like, what has changed? I'm just very curious about the industry, and like, are they? They've always had like high fashion, where it's like Kanye West or something, where the clothes are not. Nobody would actually wear them.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
And then there's like that. It goes all the way down to like Target. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it? Do you think when are we gonna get to like Hunger Games where everyone has the crazy fashion?
Well, that's always there. There's always like different kinds of fashion. Like you're always gonna have your high fashion, like crazy,
super rich.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You gotta be rich to buy that kind of stuff.
Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. Yeah. But then there's also commercials. Like, I think that there's more money in commercial than fashion. Runway, I guess. But at the same time, print does very well, too.
Does it really?
Yeah, print does. I mean, you can make a lot of money with print.
It always seems like it would just go on a website
I mean,
somewhere.
I think it is kind of... I would assume that print is slowly fading because nobody really reads anymore. Everything's online.
Uh-huh.
E-commerce is huge. You can make a ton of money doing that.
Yeah.
And I've done some of that. Like, that's... In fit modeling, there's also fit modeling. I've recently gotten a great fit model job.
Is that like when you try on the clothes and you tell them how it fits?
They fit the clothes to you. And that's been great because, I show up, all I gotta do is keep my body right. So it's just like I show up, they don't take my picture. I really enjoy the people I work with, and it's just consistent good work. And that's actually what...
Well, that sounds like the dream job right there.
I never really knew about it, but it really is. And I'm hoping to do a little bit more of that. I know that Callie and I are thinking about going to New York sometime this year, so I might check out a fit model agency or something there. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see how it goes. Am I going to see you like on a LA Fitness ad or something?
God, in my wildest dreams, probably not. We'll see.
See, I want to do the ad for like, I'd want to be the model for like the CPR pamphlet. You know what I mean? Like the ones they put like in the pocket of the seat on the airplane.
Is that like, are you saying that you need your first kiss or something that bad?
Oh, damn, shots fired. No, I think I'm just weird. Like, I got to be an extra in a Lifetime movie. And they were like, we need someone to be like the guy with the IV, and he's like walking aimlessly in the back. I was like, that's me right there. I was so pumped about being like that guy.
I mean, but that is so cool. I get it. I mean, I would totally do that stuff.
It was fun because I was acting like I didn't know what was going on.
Honestly, anytime, even if you don't get paid a lot of the time, but anytime you get to act like something you're not, and it's totally acceptable, like that is... You grab that opportunity and you don't let go. And you just give it your all. Like, of course, like you would have felt like an idiot if you didn't get all into it.
Yeah, I would have been bummed if I was just like someone sitting somewhere, But I think it also kind of taps into that like little kid playtime. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
I don't know about you. When I was little, like the floor is lava and all that stuff.
Totally.
I think most people do that, right? You did that.
I think that's like part of some developmental stages.
But like when you're doing acting and you have an outfit and stuff, you get to really do that, and theoretically you're getting paid.
So when I go to Teresa Bell and take her acting classes, you show up there, you get in costume, you have to associate with a feeling, before. I mean, there's all of this instruction, and all of it is inner work. I mean, the costume just is like the icing, but everything is so intuitive. Like I will tell you that the last 3 years of improv and acting classes has done so much more for me than any years of therapy I've ever gone to.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I will I'm pretty sure that if my kid's having some like depression or whatever issues, I'm gonna make him take an improv class.
I think there's some truth to that. There's always a bit of some kind of like self-therapy going on, especially in comedy.
Yes.
You know, like,
totally.
especially with comedians.
You have to be careful though, because you can really break yourself down, and it's so easy. It is so easy. I totally see how alcoholism is a thing in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt it. I feel like sometimes, but I just, what was the question?
Shoot, I lost my track. Oh, we're talking about how there's insecurity involved and kind of self-therapy when comedians are kind of this, because I think of myself as a comedy person, and I feel that there's this element of like, please accept me. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's really freeing to lay your shit bare.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, this is how I am, and laugh. Please laugh, because if you don't, that means it's a real issue. You know?
And comedy's tough. It's not like, it's not as universal as other emotions. Like sadness and happiness, they tend to be more universal. But something that you think is funny, it's hard to make if everyone thinks that's funny, you know? A lot of times it divides the audience.
Oh, totally. I do not think I've ever had one unanimous laugh. I feel like there's always somebody in there hating.
Oh, God. Okay, I got to ask about hecklers. Did you have to deal with that?
You know, I've been okay. It's been not too bad for me yet, but it'll be interesting to see how I handle it.
You not too bad. Was there an incident? Was there one guy wouldn't shut up or what?
No, I think that I think that people will just play along. I get nervous and I try and I'm like, you know what I'm talking about? Like I try and engage the crowd. So the worst thing that they could do is just not say anything, which has happened.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Did you hear crickets?
I have gotten, there have been 3 separate times that I've gotten 0 laughs in 4 minutes.
Damn, but it felt like 4 hours.
You have no idea. But I'll tell you what, I still felt empowered by it. Because you do it.
Yeah, you were accomplished. You felt you did something. Even if it was hard and it didn't work,
I got up there.
I fucking did it.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the hecklers is what stops me. Because like my sister does stand up. My brother's done it a little bit. But I don't know what to say to a heckler. Like, you have to, you got to zing them back. Like, I can't think of my feet like that.
But you don't, that's the thing. Yeah, you can.
Well, I can think of my feet if it's comedy, but when I'm trying to, like, attack someone, it's really hard.
That's the thing. Like, attacks will come to you. I feel like never try to do it because it'll be so unnatural. Like, your best defense is to listen or just to respond how you normally would. Like, so much of my shit is, like, if someone doesn't like something I say, like, I have no problem being, like, flipping them off or whatever and just kind of continue on with my own thing, or just like completely ignore them in the first place. You don't have to give them anything. Mm-hmm. You know, like you get up on that stage, you have to really give 0 fucks.
It's tough for me to give 0 fucks.
It's tough for everyone to give 0 fucks. I have yet to have a time where I give 0 fucks, but I'm getting closer.
It's cool. It's like lucid dreaming. When you do it, it's awesome.
It's like, yeah, there have been a couple times where I feel like I've just been like, drop the mic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, every time I've given 0 fucks, like, I was winning so hard right after that.
Yeah, even if it was just in my mind. Just like, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
As long as it makes me happy.
I think stand-up, it's really, I admire it because you have to stand there and be funny by yourself. I have trouble with that. I'm funnier if I'm bouncing off people, but stand-up, like, it's you. You're it. You know?
Yeah, I agree. It's hard. I'm not going to lie and say it's easy at all because I still struggle with it so much. And, I hope of course I hope I gain success, but it's not such a bad thing that it's tough, Nothing good comes easy, I guess.
Yeah, there's something about the human condition. We need struggle. Otherwise, like...
There's beauty in the struggle and, like, what was it? Beauty in the struggle and pain in the success, or like ugly in the success.
Yeah, that's why you hear
what it
about
is.
super
J.
rich
Cole?
people that are like so depressed because I mean, what do you really do with your life when your time when anything you want, whatever you need and want is done?
Well, that's how you judge a man.
Is it?
I mean, one of the ways. Like, who are the, like, money involved or not involved? Like, I mean, I definitely have people in my life that money hasn't changed them at all, but I have more people in my life that it has.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but they've changed.
Because then you get into like, what's the point? What, are you doing it to get money? What's your real motivation here?
I think that's probably a numbers decision.
Yeah. I don't think
Maybe
it's
not.
inherently evil though to try to do it for money. I think a lot of people
No.
that like, especially actors, they tend to get on their bandstand and be like, I'm doing it for the art, but a lot of it's like, yeah, I want to make money.
Well, everyone, you have to have money to, of course, like, I mean, some people, yeah, money doesn't really mean that much to them, but money does mean a lot to me. I take a lot of, it's hard for me to not judge my worth, not anyone else's, but my own worth it's hard for me to not make that assumption off of how much money I make. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really ever make that about anyone else, but that's my internal battle. You know, money matters.
So is there a certain number like that you're trying to get to and you'll be like, all right, I've succeeded?
Infinity.
Good answer. That's a good
Yeah.
rapper answer.
I know. Well, inner
Going
self.
to the top.
Yeah,
All the way up.
for sure. I love that song.
What song?
And I'm all the way up.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I love that song.
So I want to ask you about those real high. We're kind of bouncing back and forth,
Very good.
but I like those fashion ads where it's like I think Gucci does it a lot, where it's kind of a short, but it's more like this. It's almost like a movie that would be an installation at a museum. You know, like it's not a music video. I think James Franco did
like
one.
a fashion video. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's not a music video. It's not really a commercial, but it's like this concept video.
Yeah,
I think those are cool.
they are cool. Very cool.
What do you think about that stuff? Is that something like people in the fashion industry that? Because I would imagine Gucci ads and stuff.
No, I think that's a big thing, doing fashion
Yeah.
videos. I think it's a really popular thing to do. I think it's, I mean, I don't really know a whole bunch about film, but it doesn't look easy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they are very entertaining to watch.
Does it ever bother you that people are like muscling in? Because like when I was in high school, I did theater and all that, and we would do the musical, but we were just actors, and like we would do the musical though, because they would do one per year, and all like the choir kids would show up, and we'd be like, "Fuck those kids," because they're like so good at singing, they already had like a one up on us. Mm-hmm. Even though because it was like singing was more important. Do you like? Well, you're an actor / model. My question is like, do models ever get pissed off when like some actor shows up and gets a good modeling gig? Like, fuck that guy. He's he's cheating.
I think that just kind of depends on what kind of person you are. I think that I have found that a lot of models are afraid to do acting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't necessarily bother me. I mean, when it comes down to it, everyone's competition. So it doesn't matter if you're a model, if you are a teacher, a fucking yoga coach, I don't even know, and unemployed. It doesn't matter. If you're there for the audition, like, you're there for the audition. You know what I mean?
They're in the crosshairs.
Yeah, exactly. They're in the crosshairs.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I think that a lot of people, I think if people are easily threatened, then yeah, I'm sure that's an issue.
Okay. So, what is there anything you would like to do that you haven't done? Like, you really want to play an assassin in a movie or something, or like what?
Oh my gosh,
what's your dream
things.
job? What are you trying to go for?
I mean, there's so many dream jobs. Like,
That's a shitty answer. Give me a
I
better
know,
one.
which is like, and what? Let me think. Like, yeah, I would love to be I would love to be in a movie that required a lot of physical activity, like fight
like
scenes.
stunt work?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
stunt works or fight scenes. I took a film fighting class, and that was so fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to do that, or any kind of physical activity. Like, I would just love to do it. But
Yeah, it seems like a lot of fun. I always watch the behind the scenes of like Keanu Reeves doing all the training. Mm-hmm. But what do you think about I don't like how all the actors do stunts though. Like, would you do your own stunts?
I mean, yeah, to an extent. I would do as many as I felt comfortable doing.
Okay. See, I think it's a bad trend where all these actors are doing stunts. Because first of all,
Why?
the stunt people are having less jobs. I mean, clearly they still have stuntmen, but like, they're not getting as much work when the actor's doing half of it. And I as a producer of movies and stuff, I cringe when I think like, God, you know, if what's his name, Captain America, Chris Evans, like he breaks his ankle, you know, they lost half a day now. But if the stuntman breaks his ankle, he's a stuntman. They'll probably have another one, or he's just a badass stuntman. He'll do it anyways.
Yeah.
Like when you watch Jackie Chan, of course Jackie Chan's an extreme example, but like 90% of his outtakes are him getting like serious life-changing injuries.
Yeah, he's tough.
Is that like I feel you on that, wanting to do the physical and like an action kind of.
I mean, I wouldn't be doing anything. I want to do things that like I know that I can do. Like I'm not going to put my life or really body in that much danger, but I'm pretty athletic, and I think that. I mean, I love doing obstacle courses. So it can't be that. I mean, I think I could do like a lot of the stuff. I'm not gonna be a prima donna about it. All right.
Well, it's just it's not as safe as you think. Like there's always stories on big mega budget movies where like somebody almost died, this and that, like that Johnny Depp movie where what was it, the Lone Ranger, the cowboy movie that nobody saw, where he's an Indian.
I think so.
He's Native American. There's an outtake from behind the scenes where he was like riding on a horse and the saddle broke. I don't know horse stuff, but like it broke and he slid under the horse and the horse stepped on his chest, and like that's like 3 inches away from his face. Like your face gets fucked up.
Holy shit, that would be terrible.
Like that's your moneymaker as a movie star. And that's so scary. Like that kind of stuff happens all the time in movies.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I would be apprehensive to doing stunts and all that.
Yeah. I get the idea of a stuntman. I feel like that would be like way easier to do. I mean, yeah, in the long run it seems like the better idea, but I'm sure that some people are just idiots. I'm sure some people just insist.
Well, they're just crazy. Like Tom Cruise, he's crazy in a good way. Like he strapped himself to a plane on the last Mission Impossible. Did you see it?
No.
Well, he like literally strapped himself to a plane, and he does his own stunts. So, see your face? You're making a face like, what the fuck? That's what I said. I was like, oh my god, do they really need him to do that?
Well, I mean, honestly, if he fucking dies, then yeah, whatever, dude. But hopefully he signed away that for. I mean, whatever. That's his decision. You know, you have to
And he's a producer, so he signs off on it as well.
So I'm sure that, like, you know, it's just you can only feel so bad for him. He knows he's taking a risk.
Can you imagine the insurance policy on that? Would you want to do a Resident Evil movie? You could do that.
I think so, yeah.
That could be dope.
I don't know if I really want to watch one, but that sounds like something I would totally want to be in.
Because you get a gun and like cool armor and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I used to love doing laser tag. I feel like it's probably the same thing.
That's the same, sure.
I mean, same idea. Just more badass.
Lots more fake blood and zombies.
Yeah.
I'm over zombies.
Man, I've been having dreams about zombies the last like 3 nights. It's freaking me out.
Uh-oh, it's a sign. You should do a Resident Evil movie.
I'm down.
All right, so I think we're getting close to the time. Are there any? We'll get to the where to find you in a second. Are there any future projects that you feel comfortable mentioning that you're working on in the future?
Yeah, actually, there's a production team that I've worked with before. You know, just kind of assisting the producer, but they want to do a mini web series. It's going to be a full web series, like 6 to 8 episodes. Each episode will be 1.5 to 3 minutes. I'm writing it. Or writing it with them, but it should be good. I'm not exactly sure when it'll be out, but I'm excited for that. And then, that's probably the only thing right now. Other than that, just kind of working on stand-up and writing as much as I can.
Cool. Okay. I'd like to take this opportunity to mention there is another episode of our series coming out, which you are also in. Mm-hmm. It's the 3rd one, so that'll be cool. Now, so where can we find you? Where, if someone wants to, they're interested in hiring you as a model and they want to communicate with you, where can they find you online or what?
You can go to my website. There's a couple places you can find me. You can go to my website, www.gretchenyoung.com. There's my modeling portfolio and my contact. It's probably the easiest way to contact me. And then my Twitter and Instagram name is Gretchyo. It's kind of like J-Lo. It's GRETCHYO. And that's, yeah. Can't find me there, then there's a real problem.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in to the Temporary Space Network. I'm your host, Jim Lettuce. This is our lovely guest, Gretchen Young. Thank you for stopping by. We liked having you. Well, hopefully you can come back in another episode. Let us know what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I would love to.
All right. I'm going to close up the show in a minute. But until then, enjoy this nice musical interlude. Alright folks, it's the end of the line. I'd like to thank our guest, Gretchen Young. The trends we covered today, in summary, are binge watching is the new goal. Modular phones are not really exactly the future. Xbox cleaned up at E3. Platformers are making a comeback. All games are starting to look like Dark Souls. Photorealistic CG movies are becoming more of a trend. Nintendo sort of failed. And is E3 relevant? Yes. As usual, my links are in the description. If you'd like more information about us, about this network, just go to the website temporaryspace.net. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Temporary Space Network. Subscribe if you like information. That's all, folks.